Firstly, welcome. I did it earlier, but I'll do it to everybody now. Firstly, welcome to Edgbaston. People think it's home to Warwickshire, which it is, apparently 125 years this year. But it's also home to Birmingham Bears, who you'll see tonight. It's also home to England, when England come. And it's also home to the new 100 ball competition next year. And I think the team's going to be called the Birmingham Phoenix. So we have, people think we just have Warwickshire here, but we actually have 4 different elements to it. I put this presentation together actually a while ago now, so there may be a few things you see on there but they're still relevant. Again, I don't know how many of you work in county cricket or domestic cricket or international or anything like that. So if anything's you're not sure, just fire away a question at me. I'll happily answer anything. I'm quite passionate about what I do. If anybody reads my tweets, care quite importantly how groundsmen are treated around the country, and I really do care about the industry becoming better. I think we only get better by talking to each other, coming on days like today, learning from everybody. I'm a bit annoying. I'll go and see the football guys about the outfields. Why does football grounds always look so good? I can't spend that much money, but I can learn from them. I also might go to a club ground I went to last night, and they had some good ideas of what they're doing, so I can take ideas what they do and use myself. So every bit of knowledge I can take in, I will do. I've worked in, just a bit about myself, I've worked in county cricket since 1993. I left school and went straight to Grace Road, Leicester. Left Leicester in 2009 to go to Trent Bridge. Again, a great venue. If anybody ever gets a chance to go to Trent Bridge, please go. Good grounding at Leicester, deputy at Trent Bridge. Then the opportunity in 2011 came up to come here. 2011, took the job in 2011 thinking it'll be interesting. Youngest member of the ground staff when I started, be a challenge. Didn't expect 2012 to be the wettest year on record. If you ever put in England, so the ECB give you a nice signed photo. Not signed photo, a photo of your first test match. Big achievement for me, family were pleased. I reckon you could have put a blotter on mine. We lost the first 2 days with rain, and then we played days 3 and 4, and then the last day was washed out. So to be quite honest, it was pretty eventful. But since then, my team have evolved. I've got you probably saw them all sitting there, but they're a great team down there. You're only as good as the people behind you. They work tirelessly, to get Edgbaston looking as it does, as all of us do. There's no luck in it. They have worked this year probably in excess of their normal hourly week, 500 hours already. We all work hard. I'm not saying anybody doesn't, but I can't sing the praises of them guys out there enough. We're in again today. We won't finish till probably midnight tonight. We've got a local smash tournament on Sunday. We have a couple of weeks off, or a week off, then we go into a championship game that's been brought back because Worcester was flooded, and we've had the game brought back here. I did thank Tim personally just to have an extra game, but no, he can't be helped. Again, he has to deal with things that I don't. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through a bit of a pitch preparation. And I was going to do it, typical year, we start in January, finish in December, but actually, when I started to do it, I thought, well, it doesn't. So this was us at the back end of last year. Probably can't see it. 4-day Division 2 winners, Warwickshire in Division 2 last year. And we got promoted. The reason I started it with this was, I don't say this for all clubs. I don't say it for any clubs. But one of the biggest things on this picture for me is if you look to the right-hand side, forget my ugly mug, but every member of my team's on there. Our director of cricket, Ashley Giles, last year, purposely walked over and said, I want you guys in the photo. That meant more to every member of my team than any bonus, well, let's say not bonus, but anything, because actually it meant you were part of the team that delivered the silverware. The players play the game. We provide a pitch, like Andy will provide the tickets in the ticket office and stuff, and the catering and things like that all are nice with it. The players do their stuff on the pitch, some great Trot, Bell, Patel, all in that team that went up last year. But to be actually said, come and join us, we want the complete management and the ground staff are in it, I think speaks volumes for this. I've worked at some really good clubs, but this club is like that. And I put that on purposely for that reason. You know, the hard times, you know, the wet times and stuff like that, but them days make what we do really personal. So that was that day. Comedy value. This day probably isn't the best day to start this because we're all feeling a little bit rough. If you look closely on these pictures, the team are hating me. And basically, I've not done too in-depth. This was, you know, to some other people I was doing it, and I appreciate you guys know more than the original one this was meant to. So we basically, the square is not pretty similar to what it is now. Probably last year was a little bit more warm, but we mow it down to 2 mil. That may take a couple of cuts because obviously going straight down from 10 to 2. We scarify them 5 different ways. You didn't see our scarifier, actually it was in the back, I apologise. It's a TM1000 that goes on the back of a tractor. It's a tractor mounted heavy duty scarifier. There is other ones around. Then we brush, again, I think we showed you these, I apologise if you can't see. The guy on the end, he's basically, all they're doing is brushing and sweeping through the square to leave a really nice, even, smooth surface. It's basically planing it off, for want of a better way to say it. Then that night, once all that's done, and hopefully that is pretty much done in a day, because of its tractor mounted to clean it all out, that's done in a day, and it will go through anything. We then add about 8 millimetres of water. I didn't show you out there, somebody asked about irrigation, but we've got 8 pop-up sprinklers around the square. So that night we can add, you know, you can go on it via my computer and through a cloud and all sorts of things, but you can basically pop the sprinklers up at home, set what you want to do, unless you're a little bit too drunk and you leave it on a little bit longer and all the team don't appreciate that. But no, generally we had about 8 millimetres of water on. Then the following morning, about 10 o'clock, the square's just about ready to get the seeder on. You can go on early at that stage. It's generally, the ends dry out a little bit later than the middles. So it's a bit like, I've got to get on now because otherwise if everything dries out. Generally that's done, like I say, we've won the league. Let's say it's on a Sunday afternoon, Friday or say. This is all taking place on Monday morning. Tuesday morning, we're then ready to seed. Once the ground is ready, we run over with a seeder, and again we do it in 5 different directions, and we end up going with play. Everything we do out there, the last way we go is always with play. Generally, there's a couple of reasons for that, and the main reason is if with seed lines, you generally see them the following year, and if you go with play, if the seed with play, they look for some reason personally cosmetic better. We've seeded it up. We then add our pre-seeding fertiliser, and then we add, again, hopefully by the afternoon, this is 2 days after the season's finished, we top the square up. Again, I've put that in the corner just because obviously we used it. 230 to 300 bags of top dressing. It averages out about 10 bags of pitch. That goes on lovely, 2 different directions. We top the ends up. We're topping them up anyway, so we never any really low spots. And then we drag mat it again, 2 or 3 different ways just to really get it in. And basically, this, like I say, this photo's 2 days after the season's finished. We're completely done. The reason it's so quick, and the reason we have to be so quick, this is October the 4th by this stage, because we've had, I think, a corporate day and stuff like that. So, what's it? 20 days after the end of season, again, you can see our pop-up sprinklers. This has been cut with a rotary, just to give it a little top off. It's had no fertiliser. It's having its first cut. Again, sometimes we've played around with germination sheets. We've put heavier duty germination sheets, see if that works. The problem is with germination sheets when you're putting it on a clay loam is you have to get them off. Or if they sit flat because it's wet, you end up with the grass dying off a little bit. So we've come to the conclusion we don't put anything of it on it.
Gary, what's your loam? Sorry.
Loam Onga Plus. Onga Plus. I put these 2 things on because people then think we then go and have a few months off, which we We do. I'm not going to, we do have to get our time off in. The outfield, I haven't touched on the outfield, easily because the outfield we do pretty similar tasks to, we just hollow core that instead of anything else, but we have a company in to come and do it. I've wanted to bring it in-house, but it's something that the club they've got to heavily invest in the kit, and it's always been felt getting someone in the week we're doing the square seems to work better, and they do a very good job, so we do that. Two or three of the things that people don't see, and a couple of these are over 2 or 3 years. We have a fireworks display. We've just spent this outfield, roughly, we spend about £25,000 at the end of season, roughly, give or take, on the outfield. So it's seeded up, hollow cored, scarified, 30 tonnes of sand. Again, with the square, you've seen everything we've done on there. That all comes at a cost. And then certain people at the ground think we should have a firework display. We're less than a month after that's been done. So we ended up having to spend quite a lot of money. If you see the bottom one, I don't know if you can see it very well, but that's to cover the square. Because 3 or 4 years ago, we had a firework display and we didn't cover, and the company that sold the fireworks sold us the wrong ones. And they exploded too low, and there was sulphur marks like little dinner plates getting bigger and bigger. There was 115 sulphur damaged bits that we had to pick out the square by hand. Which doesn't go down particularly well with a groundsman. And then again, the snow. This picture there is taken, I think, in April. We're about a week away from playing our first game. So again, we use the grow sheets to cover the square, and then we have to take them off. Just little things we all have to deal with. We play so early. We play, I think, the first nets next year. We won on March the 20th. And our last game here this year is September the 27th. So we're sort of getting a bit longer and longer. And this is a match day. Pitch prep is done, everything's done the day before. Again, all I've done is just took 2 different angles. This was, I think this was England-Australia, T20 last year. I think it was, yeah. We do our pitch, clegg readings, and like I say, our moisture readings. Moisture readings by that stage, I think we're about 31, which is where 30 is about our nice area. Generally lasts and it stays the same for 4 days or 1 day or a test match. So that's why we start at 38, because we know we're not going to drop too much. And clegg readings here ideally are about 270. Again, don't chase the numbers, because some of the pitches out there, on a used one, you'll drop it and it's 350. Prime example, why don't chase the numbers on a clegg? This year England played India. The clegg reading, I think we had 36 degrees the day before the game. The clegg reading was 370 here, which is massive for us. We don't ever get that. But we played Australia in the semi-final and it clegged at 270. And for me, the Australia pitch was quicker. So the clegg reading is just how hard it is. It's the grass and the moisture content and everything that rolls into one to get where you want to be. I was talking about the fixtures. This fixture was, again, this was our T20 versus Australia last year. This season that we've just done, and it just shows you what we have. You can probably all read it, but I'll just go through it. One 3-day friendly, one 1-day friendly, one 3-day MCU game.
Open gates to the open gates to the
7 4-day county championship games, 4 Royal London 50s, 7 T20 Bears, 1 T20 finals day, 5 ICC World Cup games including the semi-final, 1 Ashes Test, which is a total of 30 games on 17 pitches, which culminates in 57 days first-class cricket in 184 days. I think I worked it out, it's something like a game every 3 days or something if you do it like that. We're not alone in that. It's tough, it's not easy. It's just an insight to what we do. I don't know how many people in here are amateurs or professional or anything like that, but we all have the same things, I just get more eyes on me moaning at me or complaining or whatever. They just have to have a broad pair of shoulders. But everybody has their, things where it's club captain who's putting loads of pressure on. I was with someone last night, and the biggest thing I can honestly say to you is always try and work with your captain, your coach, whoever it is, work with them. I find it really helps here. They're the biggest allies if things aren't, Jeets is great as a captain, as Jim was before him. Again, Paul Farbase, who you'll meet in a minute, really supportive to me and my team. Make sure we're always all right. Rang us up during the World Cup, everything okay, the lads all right, do they need anything? Just those little touches, but because you're working with them and working together, it's a big help, and I'd recommend that for anybody. But yeah, so generally that's what we look like. I think that was mid-season, so we've got a few bits that are dry on there, but it was we're pretty pleased with that. Is there any questions?
How many staff
We've got 7. Well, 7 including, so 7 here today, 1 summer, but we've got 2 grounds here to look after.
With the stands, does that give you any problems, like the sun and stands?
Yeah, just down here. My first year here, this was the complete front bit was covered in algae, but we've randomly managed to combat it a little bit by a few things. One, they were bringing in different grass seed to shade tolerance and all this, and actually the ryegrasses were quite hardy and quite strong anyway. We generally do more on the front of here now, and the lighting company SGL, they sell off their used ones. So we've got 3 lighting rigs down there that have come from football. They've moved on. I think they're on 1,000 watt bulbs for football. We've got their 600 watt. So we know the systems work. And what we do is we just put them down there in the winter and then make the way around. We're hoping this year, Wimbledon, if anybody's ever seen it, Wimbledon have got a lighting rig that does the whole of their, because if you look at this picture here, the whole of the other side, so that we're in the stand that this is took from, the whole of the other side of the square from October the 10th to, I think it's February the 17th or something silly, is under shade. And we're hoping to get a lighting rig that can move that way and that way across the square to grow grass through the winter. I've just put the budget in for that. I had reminded them that we had a successful Ashes and things like that. But again, it's a lot of money, and they don't have endless pockets. They do support, and it's very good support, but yeah, lighting rigs have helped, and vertidrain and a lot of other things.
If you had your square vertidrain, or
Yeah, so end of season, probably one thing I should have put on there, I didn't. The square, we only ever vertidrain a square once. We did it once in the season this year, actually. We used one of the Pro Cores, which was really good, actually. Went through about 4 of the pitches, which I didn't think it'd go through. It only goes to 4 inches, I think. But we have it done vertidrained once in November. Never go later than December, or the first week of December would be my latest. Pure and simply because when we start preparing them in March or February, the holes will still be there, and I've seen that happen, and it does worry you when you the holes start opening up.
use any light solar?
We have done. I wouldn't not. There's no reason I wouldn't. It's something I actually randomly say that is because we didn't spike last year. There's no reason we've done that before. It was just a year off. It was one of them things where you think to yourself, oh, should I try that because it is a good. But the little black cedar, that's got a little sour roller on, and that does it. But we've got the fungal digesters that we use and the sulphurs we use. That breaks up the surface anyway, hopefully without having to do anything. But it's not something I wouldn't not do. They are very good. Yeah. Yeah. So it was one of those where I'd listened to a few people and they'd said hit it once well, rather than a few times. And what we tend to do is rather than going at 9 inch, I think Wiedemann goes to 9 inches. I think rather than doing 9 inches every year, we've done 9, 7, 8, 6, 9. So it doesn't pan off at a certain level. And if you take a foothold out there, even now, it's not been done last year, you generally will see the holes and you see the seed going down. So it does work. Our other ground, we tried bottom dressing. So we waited to top dress till after that. We seeded it up and everything. And then we vertidrained it a little bit earlier. And then we top dressed it after the holes were in. Not against it. We've done it to a couple of pitches that cracked and it worked really well. I just like to get the air in and get it breathing. The main reason we do it is to get the root depth, and it holds all the pitches together. If you have a season like this square will basically, if you leave it, will crack open, and you'll be getting your hand down it. So it's to keep it all pretty safe.
You've had Ashes test obviously here and a World Cup test. How is it different in terms of how you prepare them two pitches? Is there much difference? Who tells you how to prepare the pitches?
That's a good question.
You're not afraid.
I can honestly say, I can't remember. I think I've done 6 test matches now. I can honestly say in all 6 test matches I've never been asked to prepare a pitch per se. I've only ever been asked to have good carry, good bounce and a bit of nibble, which is generally a good cricket wicket really. In 15 I heard Alistair Cook say after they lost at Lord's he wanted a good old-fashioned English cricket wicket, which I wasn't sure what one of them was, to be honest. But generally they just, I've always been actually quite lucky because they've always asked for good cricket wickets, and it's a good competition between bat and ball, I can honestly say that. There's a lot of mis-talk about the World Cup, a lot of rubbish actually, is the best way to describe it, that the ICC tell you what to do. The ICC don't tell you what to do, they tell you they want, a good contest between bat and ball, but they set certain parameters. So Virat Kohli came here and he complained about the boundary being too short. Funny thing was the shot he was on about, Ben Stokes would have hit it the other side because it was 73 metres and the boundary the other side was only 70. The difference is that on there, if I take that from a normal season here, that's off the scale really. Normal season it would say on one day international, whoever it may be against, like next year it's Ireland, and 1 test match versus the West Indies. That's next year's schedule and T20 finals day. There's 5 on there. So you come here next year, and I'm more than welcome. Anybody can come and ask me and I'll show them the pitch. It will be a brand new pitch virtually in the middle of the square because it's 1 game on 1 day, like that. You know, you've got 2 nice new ones either side. It's all under prep. You've had 10 days to prep it. This year, if you look at that picture on there, apologies if I stand in anybody's way, but that's your first World Cup pitch, that's your semi-final, and that's your other World Cup pitch. And they were used, the first 2, it was comedy in a way. So the first World Cup pitch was quite slow. We'd had, in the preparation, I worked out it had 40 daylight hours, and that was including 2 nights when we took the covers off at like 6 o'clock. So I was really quite pleased and proud that we got anything that resembled a cricket pitch. And actually, Kane Williamson got 100 on it. You know, played pretty true. It was slow. I ain't going to say it was a belter by any stretch, but it was a fair pitch. Following week, we played. A week later, we have to use the same pitch because they want to be in the middle. We can't go either way. We haven't got any other pitches. We play. Who do we play? New Zealand play Pakistan. Babar Azam gets 100, and it turns. And I've got it on my phone. Quick Viz, I think it's an analytical website. Edgbaston turns more than anywhere. India are going to be well happy. They're going to thrash England. England are going out of the World Cup. And there was so we then flipped over to the brand new pitch. So we played on the same pitch twice. So the same pitch that was slow on the first game was always going to be slow on the second game. And it was always going to probably grip a little bit because it was a week later.